All right, the reading ACT tips. When we do the training for this, the training for us was 3 hours, and he spent maybe 20 minutes on it because there's really only one true tip that will help. I am going to give it to you because Oakland paid a lot of money for this guy, and it does work. I'm going to modify a little bit what he says because my modification is what the kids who said it worked did, and I want to make sure that you have it with my additional thing. All right, the overview of the test, and the overview is really important for your tip. You have 4 passages, okay? And there are 10 questions for each passage. And you have 35 minutes to complete all of the questions. Timing is a big issue for 90% of the students. The IB kids don't typically have a problem. Advanced honors kids typically don't have a problem, but honors and standard kids never get done with the reading portion. Because for you to read 4 passages, and each one is 6 to 8 paragraphs, okay, and answer 10 questions for each one, that is a lot of reading in 35 minutes, okay? So our goal for you is to, okay, how am I going to be successful on this test when it's grading me on my reading speed, which is really a big part of what they're looking at. The first thing is know what type of passages. The first one is prose fiction. And this is where they're going to test you on the literary elements, characterization, irony, all of those things that I have focused on this semester and last semester. The second one is your social science. This one is basically reading like a history book, okay? Maybe a psychology book, okay, because that's typically where they come from. It is very dense and very fact-based. Most students do not like this one unless they're a history buff. Okay. The third one is the humanities. This one also reads like a short story, okay, but it deals with the arts. It could be something about an art class, a dance teacher. Those are the 2 most recent ones that I remember. The fourth one is a natural science, and this one also reads like a textbook, but it is a science textbook, okay? So it is also fact-based, has a lot of science terms sometimes, okay? Students often don't like this one either. So the tip is to reorganize the test, and this is why I'm modifying it a little bit. You guys can see how small these bubbles are, okay? If you reorganize the test like they say to do, and it does work, the chances of you filling in the wrong bubble are very high, okay? So if you choose to do this tip, I want you to circle the answers in your booklet and then go back and transfer them when they say 5 minutes remaining, okay? Because otherwise, your entire score is messed up if you even get off by 1 line, and those bubbles are small, okay? So what they say to do is to reorganize the test. Take the test in the order of interest or the ones that are easier. If you are interested in the passage, it's a fact that you're going to do better because you're paying attention to what you read, whereas if it's boring, you're going to struggle through. The ones that you are going to have the easiest time on are the first and the third. And you're going to have the easiest time on that because those are the ones, when I made your quizzes the whole year, every single quiz was a practice reading quiz. I made the questions and I made them in the format of the ACT. And I used the questions from passages 1 and 3, okay, to make the quiz. So those are going to be the ones that you find the easiest. So what that means is you're going to take passage 1, skip passage 2, take passage 3, and then go back and take 2 and then 4, okay? The guy said to read the first little bit of each passage to decide. I'm telling you, based on what I know of you, you need to take 1 and then 3, okay? I have 2 students that are history buffs, and you know who you are. You could go 1 and 2, but it's not guaranteed to be a history passage. It could be psychology, and I would still recommend 1 and 3, okay? Once you reorganize the test, you have to decide what grade that you want. If you make, it's actually on the next slide, 10 questions correct, your score is a 12 on the ACT. But notice 20 questions. That's an 18, okay? Which means that I want you to spend all of your time, all 30 minutes, on the 2 passages you're going to focus on. And then at 5 minutes remaining, you're going to transfer the answers from the booklet to the answer sheet and guess on the rest. Because statistically, if you choose B or D, okay, not going back and forth between them, but B or D, you will get at least 5 of those right, okay, just by how many B's are on the test. That gives you a 23 on the ACT for the reading portion. So that gives you 15 minutes for passage 1, 15 minutes for passage 2, and you're guessing for the remainder, and you're going to get a 22 to a 23, okay? And that's a solid score. For those who have told me where you're going, I've gotten Motlow, I've gotten 2 or 3 MTSUs. I have, I think one person said UTC. That 22, 23 is what you need for those schools. Okay, no one has told me about any school that needs above that 23. Okay, so doing this strategy will get it. There is a problem though. That assumes that you get all those questions correct that you try on. Okay, that's why it's important to spend the extra time, because the thing about the reading test is all the answers are in there. But most kids don't have time to go back and reread those paragraphs and find those answers. That's why they miss them. By spending the extra time on the passages, you're able to go back and look and find them, okay? If you want to get the 36, you have 7.5 minutes per passage, okay? So you guys are basically taking double the time to get the score that you want. If, however, for whatever reason you want to get higher than that, then you need to do 3 passages and try really hard on, okay? And that, you have 10 minutes per passage, and then that gives you the last 5 minutes to guess on and fill in the bubbles, okay? You need to guess the same letter. Do not go back and forth. It needs to be the same letter on every single subtest, and you need to choose B or D, because we know that 27% of the test is B, and 27% of the test is D. C is the least common at 16%. Pre-mark the passage. You really need to read the questions first, not the answer choices, just the questions. Half of them will say in lines. When that happens, you go to the passage and you put a box around it or a star, and you write what number it is. When you're reading the passage and you get to that, stop reading and go answer that question. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to have to reread it. A lot of the questions start out with the passage states. That means the answers are actually in the text. You don't have to think about it. You just have to go find them. If you have an answer that is word for word from the passage, it is always the wrong answer. This is what they like to do on the reading. They will say, the passage states, give you a question, and one of the questions is word for word of something that happens at the end of the passage. Your brain remembers that because it happened at the very end. They're tricking you because they're looking for something that happened in the middle. Okay? The thing that happened at the end did happen, but it's not answering the question. It may be close, but it's not answering the question. Okay? The answer is in the middle, and it is paraphrased from what the passage says. Okay? And they do that on multiple questions. So if it is word for word from the passage, cross it out 100% of the time. It is the wrong answer. Okay? Vocabulary. They like to give vocabulary. The definition for the vocabulary is in the sentence above or the sentence below. Okay? They will give you context clues or actually use the definition in a way that you can figure it out in the sentence above or below. All right, any questions on the reading ACT?